What's up, everybody? Couch Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Overwatch video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down an Overwatch tier list. The meta has changed quite a bit since our last tier list, so we're going to be breaking down what the best tanks, supports, and DPS are in this video. So we're going to jump right in, but go to the GameLeap website right now if you want in-depth tips and tricks and VOD reviews that is going to tell you exactly what you need to do to climb. Whether you're stuck at gold, diamond, plat, it doesn't matter. It's going to help you improve and climb all the way to masters or grandmaster. So go check it out right now down below. But without further ado, let's jump to the video. Now I'm actually going to do this tier list a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about the tanks and the supports kind of simultaneously because they really go hand in hand. And we're going to talk about the #1 most picked character starting off is Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball has almost a 9% pick rate, just the most amount of pick rate. And you're really seeing two distinct compositions that are being played the most right now. You're seeing a dive-esque composition and you're seeing a double shield composition. Now, there is different types of dive, which I'll talk about in a second, and there's also a brawl composition that sees play infrequently, but it still sees play. But specifically, Wrecking Ball is a tank that also sees play with non-traditional tanks as well. Like, the best natural fit to Wrecking Ball is definitely a Diva. Diva can peel very well, play with the team, can sometimes help the Wrecking Ball as well if there's a distinct opportunity, and Wrecking Ball can kind of be this self-sufficient force, but Wrecking Ball can also play with a lot of other tanks as well. And if you're playing Overwatch at any level right now, doesn't matter the rank, you need to be thinking about how you are going to be dealing with Wrecking Ball. How do you play against the Wrecking Ball? How do you fight against the Wrecking Ball? And the best thing that you need to think about is when and where you should be focusing in. It's incredibly important to identify when a Wrecking Ball is killable and focusing that Wrecking Ball, or when a Wrecking Ball is something that you should really not be putting your full effort and pressure into. A lot of that's going to depend on opportunity, whether or not you have something like CC or even a Discord orb on that Wrecking Ball. And overall, he is the most impactful character in the meta right now, so definitely have a plan for this matchup. Now, the top support that we need to talk about is definitely Baptiste, but it's interesting because Baptiste doesn't play the best with Wrecking Ball, but Baptiste plays the best with pretty much every other composition. Baptiste is incredibly good with a brawl comp, with a Rein Zara composition, a Rein Sigma double shield composition, and yes, you could play Baptiste with a Wrecking Ball, but it's going to be less overall impact than playing some other options. Baptiste, his power level is so high that he's really seeing a lot of play, even in compositions that he doesn't naturally fit in perfectly, where you can't utilize his heals to the highest amount. And that's really just because of the power level of specifically Immortality Field. And I think that if you're looking for a support that can climb you all the way from the low ranks to the high ranks, Baptiste is probably your best bet. Very consistent and very powerful, and honestly probably a meta warping character. And the next two tanks that we got to talk about, Diva and Reinhardt, two characters that see quite a bit of play. Reinhardt Diva sees a decent amount of play in a brawl composition. Diva just plays that peeler for the Reinhardt. Zarya is really taking a backseat here, seeing very little play in Grandmaster right now, as Diva is just too strong up against all the top hit scans currently to be the natural pairing for Reinhardt. And if you're not playing a Diva, you're going to be playing like a double shield most of the time. Now we see a pretty even split between Ana, Zen, and Brig. Characters that you're going to play, supports that you're going to play in the compositions that they make sense with. Ana's a fine character that you can really pair with most compositions, but the thing that you need to think about when playing Ana is how you are going to stay alive if there's multiple targets after you. Characters like Wrecking Ball or other divers, if you have a Wrecking Ball and a Tracer, it is very difficult and taxing on you to hit multiple abilities. You don't have 2 sleep darts, right? So if you have a natural peeler, like if you have a Brig, and that Brig really tries to play tight with you and protect you. I've been playing Ana a lot myself recently. I just placed for the first time in a long freaking time 3900, the peak, of course, and I will say it can be incredibly annoying to deal with really good divas as an Ana, just as a random tangent. But I do feel that Ana is probably one of the best supporting options if you are in pretty much any rank, especially the lower down you go. If you have the skill to play Ana, you can carry a lot of games. Now Zenyatta is amazing, really good, sees a dramatic uptick in pick rate when you get to the highest rank, and that's really due to the amount of peel. Zenyatta can feel really rough to play when you have no peel, when there's a lot of characters after you, but if you have a Brig that can play with you, and Brig Zenyatta is actually a viable duo support combo right now, especially when you have a Wrecking Ball, or you pretty much need a Wrecking Ball on your team, because Wrecking Ball doesn't need a lot of heals. So if you have a Wrecking Ball and maybe something like a Tracer, you have two characters that are more or less independent, and Tracer specifically can just survive on mainly Zen heals or Brig packs, and then the Brig going just peels for the Zenyatta. The Zenyatta outputs a ton of damage. You use Rally and then Zen support ultimates and cycle through them to win a lot of team fights. It's actually a pretty legitimate combo right now, but if you're gonna play Zen, you just gotta think about how you're gonna get support or resources at all. And if you play Zen and you're just kind of being left to die over and over again in some of the other ranks besides the higher elos, then I would definitely move away from Zenyatta and play one of the other characters that has some sort of self-sustain and can pretty much look out for themselves a little bit more than Zenyatta can, even if a live Zenyatta can get tons of value. Now, I did want to talk about the other tanking options. Winston can be good, especially if you're rocking it with a D.Va. On some maps, Wrecking Ball is probably going to be more consistent. However, the Winston D.Va is a more traditional dive, and it really depends on the focus that you have with your other tank. If you have that coordination, you could definitely run it at even the higher ranks, but maps that you want a direct dive, so let's say Nubani, for example, is going to be better for Winston than Wrecking Ball. Typically, you can still get Wrecking Ball to work, of course, but that's definitely something that you should be thinking about. And if Winston doesn't work, I would definitely be swapping to Wrecking Ball in a lot of different situations where I don't have a partner that is on the same page as me going in at the same time, like a D.Va. Hog is definitely something that you could play. You could pretty much play Hog at any rank if you're a freaking god. You could definitely get completely shut out on Hog as well, so it's really going to depend on who you're up against, how good you are at Roadhog, and a number of different factors. So yeah, he's viable. He's going to get more viable the lower in rank you go because people don't know how to counter you as well, but it's really going to depend on your hook percentage, how well you are at positioning in a way that you're not going to get punished and different things like that. Definitely never optimal, but you could just have games where you completely roll people on Hog for sure. Sigma's going to work really well with the Reinhardt playing double shield, especially if you are enabling something like a hit scan, like even a McCree or something like that. It's going to be very strong to have like a Rein, Sigma, McCree with a Zenyatta and a BAP. It's just like a very strong core double shield setup. Now, going back to the supports, Lucio and Mercy are two characters that are going to be good situationally. Lucio, you can definitely make Lucio work if you're really good at Lucio in 100 different situations, but Lucio's definitely viable, but he has a lot of competition in that slot, whether it's Brig or Zen. That being said, in a brawl composition where you want to get your team in, Lucio can be really good. And of course, if you can really play the duality of Lucio, you could be offensive when you need to, you can peel when you need to, and you're really good at Lucio, you can make him work in pretty much any composition. And then Mercy is going to be great when you have some of the top DPS on your team that you can enable. Characters like Echo, characters like Widow, giving her a second chance, characters like even Hanzo, Ashe is a great one. So yeah, she's going to really enable those characters very well. And then the last tanks I really wanted to talk about is Orisa and Zarya. These are the least picked tanks. Zarya is actually just the least picked tank, and that's just unfortunate because there's just a lot of better options in that slot, either double shielding with Sigma or playing D.Va, because D.Va's really strong right now up against a lot of the hit scan characters like Ana, characters like Hanzo. So Zarya is falling down, even though at ranks outside of Grandmaster, she still sees quite a bit of play because she's really a carry powerhouse. She brings a lot of force to a brawl composition, and I think that she's fine. You could definitely play her. It's just not going to be the most optimal the higher in rank you climb. Orisa, double shield, you could definitely play with Orisa, but Orisa's power level is typically weaker than some of the other double shield options like Rein and Sigma. So now we need to move on to the DPS. What are the best DPS to play in the current meta? And honestly, it's going to depend a lot on a number of things, specifically the team composition. There's a lot of DPS that are good in most team compositions, but some DPS are going to thrive a lot better in certain compositions. So let's break that down. The number one most picked character in the DPS slot is Tracer, followed closely by McCree, and both of these characters are pretty much the de facto DPS that almost every single team is going to have one of these two options, at least maybe even both of them. Tracer is good in pretty much every single composition. Whether you're playing double shield, she's still fine because she can pressure out enemy Zens in the back line, kill immortality fields in an off angle, get good pulse bombs, and just in the nature of ranked, if you're really good with the character, you can just bait out and trade for a lot of cooldowns by the enemy and just get picks all by yourself. So Tracer's great there. And of course, if you have a Wrecking Ball and you're playing some sort of dive disruption comp, you can find opportunity to get picks and follow up on a Wrecking Ball slam and Wrecking Ball displacing enemies. So that's definitely something that you can do often. Now, McCree is definitely not going to play as well in a Wrecking Ball composition with like a Wrecking Ball D.Va because there's no shield. That being said, if you have the peelers, right? So if you have like a Brig that can peel with that D.Va, you can still play McCree and get decent value. It might might be better off, though, that you're playing characters that have a little bit more effective range. Characters like a Widowmaker, for instance, or an Ashe might be better, so you can position a little bit further. But in any of the double shield or brawl compositions, McCree is just going to be the best of the best, capable of dealing with enemy wrecking balls by stunning them, putting out the most just mid-range damage, and being able to keep other tracers in check as well. McCree is just a great pick right now. Now, let's talk about some other viable options, because there's really a lot of DPS options that you can rock, specifically characters like Hanzo. Really good when you're playing a double shield comp and just a brawl comp in general. Hanzo needs a shield really to be the most effective, but he can definitely output a ton of damage, get picks on the enemy, and he's just great in general. Characters like Ashe, like I said before, especially if you have a Mercy Pocket, Ashe is fantastic, can position pretty far away, get a lot of chip damage in with her dynamite. Widowmaker is great if you're great with Widowmaker. You can get picks, you can carry games. There's not a lot I need to talk about with Widow. Widow has been a viable pick if you're great with her at any rank pretty much since the dawn of time. And then the last big character that I'll suggest is honestly Echo. Echo can really play with a lot of composition. She can play in some of those slower shield-based compositions by just poking, waiting for the opportunity to use her ultimate for a big play, or even break down shields really quickly with her beam and just catch any stragglers that kind of get caught out. She can convert that into kills, and yeah, she's just a really, really good character. Or she could be played with a dive composition with a wrecking ball, follow-up slams with her mines, and really kind of play a little bit more like a flying Genji rather than something that is just poking from long distance. So Echo's just a fantastic pick in general. And the last two DPS characters that I'll talk about is Soldier 76 and Pharah. Soldier is actually pretty good. You can really route to these off angles, put pressure into the enemy backline by putting extra damage into the enemy supports and forcing them to position much more passively. The enemy team has to back up. You can also burst down things like Immortality Field from those off angles. Soldier also plays a little bit better than McCree, specifically in wrecking ball based dive compositions because of his mobility. And then of course Pharah is great if you have a Pharah Mercy. And while hit scans are very strong right now, a good Pharah that knows how to properly distance, especially after the fall off nerf, and she really plays the high ground terrain, she can just rain down really long distance damage outside of the effective damage range of a lot of these hit scans. So that's kind of how you want to play her, and then you can swoop in for your key opportunities and hit some directs and finish off enemies when you see that opportunity arise. Now, if you want to succeed in this meta, I would definitely suggest having characters that you play in a dive-esque composition with wrecking ball at its core, or have characters you can play in a double shield spammy composition. And if you can play either the core of those or characters that fill out those compositions for both sides, you're gonna have a good time and you will succeed in this meta. But if you have any questions, definitely let me know down below, and go to the GameLeap website for in-depth advanced guides over any of the characters that we talked about. Tons and tons of targeted videos that is assured to help you improve. If you want to climb, whether that's to gold, silver, whether it's to diamond, masters, grandmaster, or top 500, we got in-depth videos for you, so go check them out right now. But thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. I love your faces, and I'll see you next time.